I think that was it was really interesting. I think to although we're in the what part and exploring more about the what, how we're always coming back to the why, and I think that's really reassuring that it doesn't matter how far we get into the technicalities of what we're talking about with smart towns. We're always bringing it back to the why. What's the use case? What's important to your town? So that was a really great thread to see. And also the point that David made about IoT becoming smaller, faster, and cheaper, and that's exactly why we're talking about it in the more localized, hyperlocal context, because the smart cities story has run for many years globally, and now we're at the evolution where the technology is available and we can achieve things at much more local scale. So that's great. But first, I'd like to come to Clive actually for his comments, and again from all of the presenters today, what you're going to take away in terms of that smaller town scale.
It's brilliant, actually. The what Miranda said about digital twins. Without realizing it, we have two digital twins up and running in Cardigan. We have the analytics system, which gives us the footfall, the dwell time, all the patterns where people come from, and all that. We've got the town app, which gives us great information about tourism and its pattern with the town, because we're very much a seasonal town. And now we're developing this third twin, which is what we're all about today, this IoT. In a matter of a couple of weeks, a colleague, Gary Howell, with Tego, has developed an IoT app, which we're now putting sensors throughout the town. And we're only just starting to look at how we can make this information. And what David said about the if this then else, we're starting to look at that as well to make more predictive information to help us benefit the town council, who supported the idea of getting the IoTs into the town, the sensors, which, as you mentioned, are quite inexpensive now, and using the standard platform, which is quite cheap and inexpensive also to do. So we're developing this third twin. And what we're also doing side by side with this is in our small little bus station of 4 bus stops, which we have in Cardigan, we're going to have a digital display there, which can be tailored and to be able to react to some of the sensors we're going to put in, along with some of the information that comes from outside the town. So that, it's brilliant that this sort of stuff is happening at our scale, because Cardigan's only a population of about 4,000 people. So yeah, really interesting stuff. And I'm very pleased with what Dave and Miranda and what Ben was saying then, of course, with the importance of the data sets, etc. We anonymize as much as we can with what we've got, and it's licensed to the town council, and we distribute information to all the traders as proactive information for them to use, such as when people come into the town and things like that. So we're hoping to do the same now with this IoT, so that we can not only inform the local authority, who are also involved with this, but also the traders of the town. So, for example, some of the footfall counters will be anonymised, and maybe the shops can see based on what kind of footfall are certain parts of the town going into a certain shop or something like that, and compare it to maybe what takings they're taking that day or something like that. So, a lot of different uses. And one other thing with the NRW, for example, somebody mentioned the river floods in Cardigan quite often, and a certain car park goes underwater, but nobody knows about it if they're going down there in the dark. So it'd be good to have an IoT sensor to show this river level and just switches on a warning light saying, don't go in here. It's a simple thing as that, and it's quite inexpensive to set up as well. So really good stuff. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great, and I think we've already had a comment on how that roadmap of connected, predictive, and cognitive was really helpful. And again, Dave's just made the comment that there are some great Welsh organisations out there for the automation part of that. A bit of a loaded question here, actually, and directed at David. Do Microsoft have a showcase town in Wales?
Not necessarily a town, but we have put sensors and automation in a few organisations across Wales and a few bots. So the start of, the key point really is we, if you like, provide the edge piece with the cloud and the Azure, the one that's based in Wales. And then what we have is we spawn off that lots and lots of Welsh companies who, if you like, then use the sensors and collate the data and do the automation. So there's lots and lots of examples. There hasn't been a specific showcase town where they pulled all this together. I mean, I can share so many examples with people that can look at the bits that do that, but not a specific town to do everything. No.
Great. Yeah, and I think because of coming back to the use case and the importance of the use case, actually sometimes it's not possible to put all of those use cases in one town, that you might actually want different towns to lead on different things and then come together to share. So that's a model that works quite well.
Yeah, David caught me with a brilliant question that I really wasn't expecting, and it was a great question, right? A really good question about where would you start first. And I think that's the key bit, Linda, right? It genuinely, all the towns we work with across Wales, they all have a something, right, that is key to them, right? That you know, I can show them the best things in the world. And there was just a mention then about flooding. You know, I can show the best things in the world, but ultimately the bits they're most interested in is flooding. And I think, you know, you are exactly spot on in what you say. Doing everything is not necessarily where organizations want to go, but working with organizations to do something that impacts that town, I think is really key. And it's, you know, it's made me think slightly differently now about how we approach this as we go across Wales.
Yeah. Yeah, I realise we're running a bit short of time here. Just wanted to touch really on somebody's posed a question about if organisations are open and happy to share. What's this mindset change that needs to happen? And again, thinking about we've explored with Ben some of the things to look out for and the principles, and I'm sure we don't want to scare anybody off, but it's about actually knowing that kind of discussion is being had and really where to go for that information. But I don't know whether Ben and Miranda, whether you want to talk more about this mindset change that needs to happen about collaboration as well.
Well, I think Uber is a fascinating example. You know, when towns and cities first had Uber coming in, they were worried about taxi drivers losing their jobs and increases in traffic and that sort of thing. But interestingly, they've now started asking for Uber's data, because that can tell them things about all the traffic problems, about demand, and they can actually learn by getting data from a private company service. They can learn a lot about the town. And I think we might see that in a whole load of different areas, that all sorts of companies have all sorts of data about places that that local councils could use, local services could actually benefit from, but at the moment they haven't really got those models to share those data. And you know, companies inevitably are worried about commercial implications. And I think we will hopefully see some progress in that. And I think, you know, lots of local companies would like to you know, benefit their local area with the data if they could do that safely, you know, and without harming their businesses. So I think that's going to be an interesting place to develop. I think that there's a slight worry that public services have duties to protect data and don't, you know, perhaps have the positive duties to exploit it in the public interest that maybe would help them to invest more, you know, to actually sort of be very much on the front foot. Because, you know, if local services don't look after the public in data, it is just left to corporations.
Yeah, absolutely. And Miranda, is there anything you wanted to add to that around the collaboration that needs to happen at the town scale?
I think a lesson in general is value your data. And that is an internal and an external lesson. So think about the data you're producing as a company, and think about, therefore, what you need to do to invest as a company or a place, an entity, and think about then what you need, how you invest in it versus your physical assets, because we need to start thinking about data as an asset. And sometimes that asset is best shared openly. Think about your bin collections or your bus timetables. You know, it does the most value by being given away. But think also about how you might reasonably be expected to pay. So I bet Uber don't give you their data for free. And so why should you give your data for free? And I think that debate is immature. People sell their own child for access to coffee, Wi-Fi and a coffee, but somehow because of the way the West Coast giants have treated their business models, services and data is often regarded as free. And I think with the ethics and with new business models, we will come to mature in that area, and we've got to be ahead of the game.
That's great, and I think there's probably a whole other webinar on a digital economy and enabling that through data that is waiting for us there. And with that, I'll hand back to David. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, Linda. So our next webinar, the fourth webinar in the series, is titled Smart Towns Digital Infrastructure. So Linda, could I be really cheeky and just hand back to you really briefly, say a few words about that session?
Yeah, sure. So again, this is probably the last one in the what of smart towns. We really do want to start to look at the comms infrastructure at the very base level that's across the town. And of course, there's a lot of talk about 5G, but there are many other technologies that can enable that comms and infrastructure. So we start to want to look at the various aspects of that, the pros and the cons, and actually how you start to future-proof that infrastructure for future generations.
Brilliant. So thanks, Linda. And that's on March 11th, and we'll be circulating invites to that very shortly. So just to wrap up, so we're on the hour, it's not too bad. I'd like to thank the speakers, so Linda, David, Miranda, Ben, and Clive, for their contributions. And also we have a supporting cast behind us, or virtually behind us. This includes Sarah from the Hub, Peter, Darlene, and Matt from Welsh Government as well. So thank you for their ongoing support. And also thank you, the audience. You keep coming back, so we must be getting something right. So thank you for your contributions, and we'll see you again on the 11th. Felly, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Diolch.